For our group project, we are focusing on visual activity schedules. We worked with Allison Preschool. They are located in an urban area. They have about 200 students ages 3 through 5, and special education is provided for 150 of their students. There are various forms of communication. 50 students receive speech therapy, and nonverbal students use PECS or point and grunt. Each classroom has 8 to 12 students with a teacher and 2 assistants. The other school staff includes a principal, a BCBA, 2 speech therapists, 1 occupational therapist, 1 physical therapist, and daily volunteers. The teachers and staff have noticed 2 ongoing behavioral issues during playtime with the kids. They are fighting over toys, which have led to tantrums.
There is research supporting the use of visual activity schedules for children with autism. To elaborate, Knight et al. In 2015 conducted a review of 31 different studies and concluded that visual activity schedules are an effective method for teaching new skills to children with autism spectrum disorder. Specifically, Krantz and McCallahan in 1998 and Banda and Grimmett in 2008 reported that visual activity schedules are effective for teaching children with autism spectrum disorder new social skills. So why do we think this intervention is more effective for children with autism as opposed to auditory directions? Well, Roth et al. In 2012 reported that visual activity schedules are more effective for individuals with autism because of differences in auditory processing. Basically, individuals with autism are better at processing visual cues than auditory cues.
Hi everyone, my name is Casey and I'll be discussing the steps to implementation for visual schedule activities. The first step is to establish a new skill or task based on the student's needs. The second step is to grab the student's attention. You should really be using intentional cues for reading the visual schedule at this step to make sure that your student is fully engaged. That leads us to the next step of going over the visual activity schedule multiple times. In this step, you want to make sure the student is fully engaged again in the steps to the activity. To confirm they're fully engaged, you could ask them questions about the visual activity or have them read it back to you to make sure they're fully understanding what's going on. The fourth step is to prompt the student to then engage in the task that the visual activity explains. You could use physical prompts, verbal prompts, whatever you think works best for your student. You would prompt them into that step that the visual activity explains. The last step is reinforcement. This is really important in each of the steps. After each step, you should really be enforcing social praise and making sure that the student knows that they are doing the correct thing and that it makes them feel good. You could use any type of reinforcement here. I personally think that social praise is really immediate and works really effectively on visual schedules, but it's whatever you think your student will respond to. This is an example of modeling visual activity schedules to a group of preschoolers. This teacher goes over each step really well, and she really models exactly what you're supposed to be doing in visual schedules.
By using a visual schedule, we're able to give the children a sense of what the sequence of the day is going to be. But we also have a history to the day. So each time we look at the schedule, we say first we played, and then what did.
That's a really important part in visual schedules. You should always be giving the steps of your visual schedule to them so they know what to expect of their day.
We do, and I call on everybody. And if something happens that we have to change our schedule for any reason at all, so for instance, if it starts to rain, and then Sophie, are we going outside today? No. Usually we go.
That's a really good example of an intentional cue.
Go outside right after group, but not today. It's a rainy, snowy day. I like to give them a chance to participate in what's happening during their day.
So that's just a small example on how to model visual schedules. This teacher really got the attention of the students and really explained that visual schedules give them a chance to participate in their day, like she explained here. It's really important that the student can have a feel that they're making their schedule so they know what to expect of you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Moore, and I'm just going to talk a little bit today how visual activity schedules can help address the school's needs. So the school has a variety of students. There are students who communicate very differently than other students. There are nonverbal, there are verbal, there are children that are in speech therapy. So it makes communication very difficult. And visual activity schedules are very user-friendly. It's what you see is what you get. It will open up means for communication. When children see pictures, it's very easy to associate the picture with something in real life. And these are generally low cost, and every student can have access to the pictures. So there could be one on the board as well as on the table, at the desk. So they will have access to it and understand what is going to be happening first, second, third, fourth. The visual activity schedules can also be used to learn other skills once turn taking is mastered. So once we open up the communication in school through these pictures and the students being able to communicate with each other and as well as with the teacher, we can work on other skills as well. So thanks, guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lene Asher, and I will be sharing with you about the school-wide implementation plan that we worked on for our project. We decided to use a Tier 1 approach because most of the students struggled with turn taking during playtime. So by doing that, we provided training for all staff on how to implement a visual support and reinforcement. And then we provided each classroom and each student with a visual activity schedule for turn taking. The costs associated included training for the staff and creating the visual supports by printing and laminating. These costs were kept to a minimum because the school already has built-in training days and the capacity to print and laminate. Turn taking was targeted during playtime in the natural environment for each classroom. Before beginning, the entire class would review the visual activity schedule for turn taking. During playtime, the students were put into small groups of 2 to 3 students and were given a verbal cue every 1 to 2 minutes to take turns. Any students taking turns correctly were given social praise, and those who were not were directed back to the visual supports. And then we utilized momentary time sampling data collection. For each classroom, we targeted 80% sharing across 10 consecutive days as our goal for this. Some final tips for our project were providing very engaging social praise that is descriptive and specific. For example, you shared your crayons so nicely with Billy. Making sure your intonation is like excited and that they are really connecting with your social praise. Being consistent by reinforcing the correct responses with social praise and prompting the students to look at the visual when they were not taking turns correctly. And finally, making sure the child is attending before implementing correction. You can check to see if they are attending by whether or not they are looking at you and the visual activity schedule. And then here are our reference pages. Thank you so much.